Hello, Packers fans. Welcome to this week's edition of the Green 19 podcast. I'm Dominique Yates. Joining me are my colleagues Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein. It's days before the first home opener at Lambeau Field for the Packers, taking on the Colts. So let's run through some things. We can recap the week and look at what to expect heading into that first game in Lambeau. So I'll start with you, Ryan. Just as you've kind of gone through this week, it's been Malik Willis kind of running the quarterback duties with Sean Clifford in the backup role. Both quarterbacks have kind of split some of those reps for the starting role, filling in for Jordan Love, as it's unlikely he'll play on this coming Sunday. Just for you, Ryan, what have you seen from this week?
I feel like the Packers clearly want the Colts to believe that there's some sort of chance that Jordan Love could play this week. Matt LaFleur said the door is pretty open. But I think they also would love the Colts to believe that there's Oceanside property available in Nebraska. I mean, this is just – I've been shocked before, but this would be an all-time shock if Jordan Love was behind center this week. It's week 2. This is a team with Super Bowl hopes. Yeah, falling to 0-2 is not great, but it's absolutely not a death nail. And you just don't risk the franchise's knee week 2. You don't do that. So who knows about next week, but it's going to be Malik Willis this week. He's been QB1. Matt LaFleur said that Sean Clifford has taken some first-team reps from the practice squad, but he was very clear that if Jordan Love can't play, and he's not going to be able to play, it's going to be Malik Willis. So what kind of game plan do they come out with around Malik Willis? I think it'll be very interesting to see how many more designed runs there is. I don't know if it's any easier or more difficult to incorporate a game plan with a lot of designed runs than downfield passing and the intricate pass concepts that you'd see with Jordan Love, but it'll be a different week. And to me, it's how everyone performs around him.
Tom, for you, obviously we don't get a long look at practice. We get to see what warm-ups and just a little bit of drills with the guys out there. But when you watched and observed Malik just with the group and just kind of from our vantage point, what have you seen with Malik and just the Packers this week?
I couldn't tell much. I mean, all I could see, he has a good arm. You can see that. Seems like he's fairly nimble, but, we didn't get to see him under center. And that's a big deal for him. He didn't play under center in college at all. Now he's been working under center for 2 years with the Titans and now with the Packers. I'm kind of interested to see how much they put him in shotgun on Sunday, maybe make him feel more comfortable. I think they're gonna, they're a play action team to begin with. So I think we're gonna see a lot of, ride and decide kind of stuff with him. It's hard. It's a mystery. I mean, no one really knows what they're getting, how he fits into the offense. I think LaFleur will come up with a nice package for him, and I think they're gonna run the ball. They're gonna run the ball as much as they can, and Willis, I think, is going to be part of that. I think he's going to be doing some designed runs. That's the one thing we kind of know about him, is that he's nimble. So that's about it. I really. Judging from a little bit of we saw in practice, I can't tell much.
Yeah, I guess it is. That's a huge mystery, especially because when you're dealing with Malik, he started in some games as a rookie. It's he played in some preseason games this season with the Titans, but other than that, it has been a small sample size. So, Ryan, you also kind of alluded to you expect them to run the ball in that read option. But also, what are some of the coaches with Matt LaFleur, Adam Stenavich, the offensive coordinator? What do they like about Malik, and from what are they saying they feel like he could bring to the Packers offense if he is the starter?
Yeah, Adam Stenavich, offensive coordinator, was asked this on Thursday during his weekly trip to the podium, and he said, athletic, strong arm, quick release. So that's something to work with, But look, they're going to run the ball a ton. The Colts ran the ball 40 – the Texans ran the ball 40 times on the Colts defense last week. The Colts defense gave up over 200 rushing yards. And I think that was a big surprise to everyone that had been tracking this Colts defense, because there are known questions at corner and in the secondary. That defensive front was supposed to be the strength, and it was anything but last week. So if you're Matt LaFleur and you see this, you're thinking, well, we got a backup quarterback. The Colts can't stop a nosebleed up the middle. You're going to run the ball a lot. I'm fascinated to see if they actually get to that 40 number. 40 runs is a ton in this league anymore. That is a massive amount. But it would not surprise me if the Colts defense saw 40 runs for the second straight game.
I will say one thing that has impressed me with Malik in terms of when we talked to him in the locker room and just in those little observations that we have, he seems very poised. He doesn't seem rattled or feels like he's overwhelmed from the information he's receiving and just everything that happened. I think he's probably been in Green Bay all of 20 days. Tom and even you, Ryan, have you both noticed the same? Has he seemed poised, and does he at least seem relaxed about everything that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, he's been through a lot in the last 2 years. I think he's, probably been forced to mature in a very difficult way because of all the pressure that was on him when he came in, the failures when he did have to start, them bringing in Will Levis, a year after he's drafted, and then having to compete for the backup job this year. I just think he's been through a ton. And, from everything I've heard, he's, a quality person. He's a hard worker. They're not going to get cheated out of that. So I think they at least get that from him. Now, being poised in an interview and being poised on the field are two different things. Jordan Love is poised in the locker room and on the field. And you could just see that from the very beginning that things don't really rattle him. He's even keel. So we'll see. I think we'll find out pretty quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if Malik Willis, airmails some throws early on and just is off and until he gets his nerves right, because I think this is a high pressure situation for him. But we'll find out a lot about him, I think.
Yeah, lay off the caffeine on Sunday morning. Do not have coffee. You're going to have plenty of adrenaline pumping through your veins already. So, you're going to need all the relaxation you can get. He was asked, I think everyone got the same impression on Wednesday when he gave his weekly starting quarterback interview at his locker, that he was calm and poised. He was asked if he was nervous. He's like, about what? He's like, chance to start. He's like, it's Wednesday, which I thought was the perfect answer. It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Who cares? There's work to do on Wednesday. You're not going out there in front of 70,000 fans on Wednesday trying to beat the Colts. You're at your locker. That's easy. That's the easy part of what he has to face this week. Spoon, do you remember by chance? I hate to put you on the spot. Do you remember by chance what the draft stock was on Malik Willis coming out of Liberty? Because his NFL draft profile, on the NFL's website, said that he kind of had this first round talent. Obviously, he went third round, and I got to be honest, 2022, the last thing the world the Packers needed was a draft a quarterback, so I did not pay much attention. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that people were really enamored with his talent and thought he could be, at the time, the Justin Fields and the kid from Carolina, and those were the kind of quarterbacks that were starting to come out. And I think he sort of fit that, and people were excited about his arm and his athleticism. And then they looked at what he did at Liberty, and they were like, oh, this is as far from an NFL offense as you could possibly be. The guy's not taking a snap up from under center. He doesn't even call plays in the huddle. It's one of those things where he looks to the sideline and they send in the play. So there was a lot of questioning about that. And then there was this knock, and I don't know if this is legit or not, because a lot of times it gets slapped on black quarterbacks, and it's really unfair, because you got a lot of people who just have that prejudice. But, he got this, reputation that he doesn't process fast enough. And I think what the process is playing in this offense that is nothing like he's going to do in the NFL. And it's like Jordan Love. Nobody would say that Jordan Love can't process. I mean, he is a smart dude, and it took him 3 years. It really did. He was not ready to play until last year, I don't think. And I think, and he came from the same kind of a deal. So I think Willis, even if he's not highly successful this year, I don't think that's the end of his career. I think those are the things that he faced coming out, and maybe why people said this is a first-round talent, and he went in the third round.
Yeah. So, Spoon, that's what I was getting at. To me, the parallels between Jordan Love and Malik Willis are interesting. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying Malik Willis is going to have the same track as Jordan Love and one day be the highest-paid quarterback in the league and then be surpassed by Dak Prescott again. No, I'm saying the early career projection as a guy that we were there, Spoon, in 2021, Kansas City. Jordan Love was not ready to play. He was forced into a terrible situation, very much no advance notice, and he looked like it. He was not ready to play. And that wasn't doom for his career because he went back to the drawing board. He went back to the lab. He developed more. He came out a year later, right, in Philadelphia 2022 and looked like a different guy. Malik Willis got 3 career starts as a rookie. He won 1 game somehow because in those 3 career starts, he never threw for 100 yards. He had 3 interceptions, and he never threw a touchdown pass. He went 1-2. It did not look good. It looked bad. It looked downright bad as a rookie because, as Malik Willis said, he was not ready to play then. He was in no way, shape, or form prepared to go out there on Sundays and play NFL snaps as a quarterback. Just not there. He feels like he's a much different player now, and we'll find out Sunday if that's the case or not. He looked better this preseason. He had a good passer rating this preseason. He looked like a different guy, kind of similar to how Jordan Love got better with each passing preseason. But then when Jordan Love got the opportunity again, he made the most out of it. Now Malik Willis is going to have an opportunity. It's a huge week for Malik Willis. Like this is it's something short of make or break, but it's a massive opportunity for him to put film out there and go beat an NFL defense, an NFL opponent. But the parallels to me are just they're striking in terms of guy gets a chance way too early, not ready, and then gets another chance.
One of the things I remember about Jordan Love's first start, for one, they blitzed the crap out of him, and that was not an easy situation for him. But what I witnessed, the numbers weren't great, but what you saw was that he didn't panic. He actually started to lead them a little bit on a comeback. They had a chance in that game. He ultimately couldn't do it. He wasn't up to it. But you could see a little bit of, all right, well, this guy's not going to fold under pressure completely. And that's what I want to see with Willis. If the Colts put 9 guys up in the box and they're just forcing him to throw and they're bringing pressure from all over the place. Now, they're not a pressure team. So they're about as vanilla a defense as you'll ever see under Gus Bradley. They play that Seattle defense, the old Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll defense, and they don't, veer from it very often. But who knows, for this game, you never know. They're 0-1. They may throw some stuff at him.
Which I guess could be the smart decision to do if you're bringing in this new quarterback who is new to the Packers offense. Stanovich even said if they load the box, though, he said they won't be stubborn and throw the ball. And at least when talking like Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, there seems to be some chemistry being built. So I don't know, this might be a difficult question, but realistically, is it crazy to say like he might only throw 12 passes the entire game, or is that maybe too high?
Jimmy Garoppolo 2019 much? We've seen it before, Spoon.
Yeah, well, you better have a Raheem Mostert running for 205 yards or whatever it was, I think it could be 15. I think it could be 17. He's going to have to throw more than a dozen, but I really do think it could be, I would say 20. 20 is sort of the over-under. And I could see it going under.
A lot of that's how many plays he gets to. I was just going to say keep Josh Jacobs in the cold tub all week because that man's going to need his body this week. It's going to be a lot of carries for Josh Jacobs.
But that's one thing that also LaFleur was talking about when Marshawn Lloyd seems like he might be in position to start playing. So at least you'll have 3 running backs. Emmanuel Wilson, he did some good things in that relief role. So, yeah, it could be a really big old school ground and pound type of football game. So I'm interested in that. But as far as the rest of the offense, a question for both of you guys. When you watch them in Brazil against the Eagles, what are you looking for from the rest of the guys? I mean, there were some drop passes. There were some missed blocking assignments. From week 1 to week 2, what are you looking to see more of from the offense? We'll jump on the defense next, but for now, just with this offense.
Go ahead, Ryan, whatever.
I think that I don't want to use this as a crutch or an excuse, but I have been thinking this, past week. A year ago, they do play their starters in the preseason. They look a lot crisper in Chicago week 1 than they did last week. I mean, to me, the offense was sloppy. There were, a handful of just gimme drops that were layups that you just don't expect. This is an incredibly, obviously talented group of receivers. You don't expect that to happen. You said offense, but the defensive side, they implemented a new system, a new playbook, new scheme, and never practiced it in live snaps. And it looked like it. It very much looked like it. So to me, last week was kind of a truncated preseason. Now, the Eagles were in the same boat, right? They didn't play their starters either, but the Eagles also were sloppy. But they were 2 sloppy teams on the field in Brazil. And it just so happened that they went toe-to-toe and the Packers lost. I think that the Packers on both sides of the ball would be much crisper having live snaps under their belt now as a team. We'll see, right? And they have to, because we talked about this earlier in the week, but the reality of being with a backup quarterback is everything's on heightened alert. Everything's on heightened sense of awareness, urgency. You have to be just that much better because he's not QB1. So you have to rally around that guy. No drops. Offensive line's got to figure its stuff out because it was two main missed assignments in both phases, both the run blocking and protection last week. Everything around him's got to be better.
As far as with the defense, if you ask Jeff Hafley and those guys, do you feel pressure going into this game? They say, we feel pressure every game, kind of the cliche term. But because of the questions with the quarterback play and with the offense, do you feel – I'll start with you, Tom. Do you feel like there maybe is even more pressure for the defense to take an even bigger jump and maybe potentially, you say, win the game?
Yeah, there is pressure on them. I think there should be a feeling that, they got to be the difference in the game, that and special teams. But, I think the part that was surprising to me was that Hafley in the first game didn't really come up with anything. He had all training camp to prepare for the Eagles and didn't come up with anything that I thought really rattled them. Whereas Vic Fangio came and switched things up and had his linebackers just crash down and stop the run in the first half. And the Packers had to adjust to that. And they did. And they wound up running the ball pretty well. But I didn't think the Packers ever made the Eagles adjust other than Jalen Hurts was kept in the pocket. And, I don't think the performance was terrible, but I don't feel like they were forced the hand of the Eagles in any way. And I think that's a coaching thing. And so I want to see if now whether they have the I guess it's guts or fortitude to say, all right, we got to win this game. We need sacks. We need turnovers. We need to force some fumbles. Whether they go after that kind of stuff and figure out a way to kind of mess with Anthony Richardson.
Also, I'm curious what the Packers secondary will look like, Ryan, because Anthony Richardson can throw a deep ball. Like, that's what he lives off of. They live off those explosive plays. You saw the 60-yard bomb. He's ridiculous, a big, strong arm quarterback. Right, exactly. Go ahead.
No. I'm agreeing with you. It was a ridiculous throw, that 60-yarder.
Yeah, I guess how much you could say talking about that pressure for that secondary with Jair, with Javon Bullard, with Xavier McKinney, Eric Stokes, just those guys really have a big assignment.
Well, that's the thing. I'm really curious how this Packers defense is going to attack Anthony Richardson. Because, and I don't want this to sound hot takey. It's just honest. I thought their game plan against Jalen Hurts was borderline offensive to Jalen Hurts. Make him play quarterback? Really? He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I get that he's dangerous with his legs. I'm not saying that. But he is absolutely talented. He will absolutely beat you with the arm. There's no question about that with Jalen Hurts. He might make some mistakes. He had 2 picks. But if you just give him clean pocket all game, he'll kill you. Well, Anthony Richardson is not the quarterback of Jalen Hurts. But we saw last week that he can throw. He was 9 of 19, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. All right, that's his line. Very kind of Jordan Love-ish line, right? Basically, where he lacks in efficiency, he makes up for with chunk plays. The fact that he's got a big old arm, he will go downfield. He's got guys who can go get it. We also know that Anthony Richardson is similar to Jalen Hurts, and that he's an athletic marvel, right? He's a guy that can kill you with his legs too. He had a touchdown run last week. He averaged almost 10 yards per carry. How do you balance that? To me, and Spoon, I'm curious what you think too, but to me, it can't just be make it easy for him as a passer, just keep his legs from wrecking the game. You have to do both, but you can't let him just sit in the calm pocket all game like they did with Jalen Hurts. And they got almost no pressure on him. The one they had 2 sacks. One was Keyshawn Nixon on a rollout for a 0-yard sack on Jalen Hurts, basically a tackle in open field. The other was Rashawn Gary unblocked. Right, that was the only 2 sacks they had. They have to find a way to keep Anthony Richardson's legs in check, keep him in the pocket, but actually pressure the guy because he's got the arm to beat you.
Yeah, I think they've got to kind of turn their defensive tackles loose a little bit more. You know, the ends always have to play contain, and they got to be careful about how they rush. And I thought, you know, Rashawn Gary's been knocked for that, and rightly so, for losing contain a lot because he's so active going to the quarterback. But I thought he played very disciplined in the game, and Preston Smith always is usually pretty consistent in that way. But, you know, they just got crushed with double team blocks from the Eagles on the inside, both in pass game and rush game. So I think they've got to, you know, threaten some stuff at least, and then kind of turn some of their get their defensive linemen some one-on-ones and let them get going up the middle. And that, you know, whether that means, you know, being more active with your inside linebackers, getting them up at the line of scrimmage or what, faking blitzes, they got to do something to be more unpredictable than they were and get those guys like Kenny Clark, Carl Brooks, Devontae White, they got to get them free and get them moving upfield.
As we start to wrap things up here, I'll start with you, Ryan. Are there any individuals or maybe just a certain player, you can say not named, Malik Willis, who you're really keeping an eye on in this game for the Colts, maybe for good or bad reasons coming off of Brazil, that you want to see something from on Sunday?
You know, I'm just thinking here, and I think rightly so. I've ripped Jeff Hafley's first defensive game plan as the coordinator pretty well, but I do think that there was an expectation that in the front that with this defensive line, if you rush 4, you're going to get home enough to make it worth this idea of just keeping his legs in check. Like he expected the stars on his defensive front to win their matchups more than they did. On the back end, he expected the coverage to be a little bit better than it was. Jair Alexander misplaying A.J. Brown on 6-7-yard touchdown to start the third quarter. So, yes, this does fall on the players too. Like, there's a lot of stars on both sides of the ball for this team. It's the reason why spoiler alert, I have the Packers winning this game. I don't think the Colts are very good. And there's a lot of stars outside of Jordan Love on this team, both sides of the ball. They got to play like stars, right? You can't have the drop passes from this ridiculously talented group of receivers when it's Malik Heath. And frankly, you know, Jordan Love, you can't have those either. But Jordan Love, his psyche, he can overcome that. This is an inexperienced quarterback, Malik Heath, that if he makes a play, he's got to get rewarded for it with his confidence, right? I mean, you can't have him make a play and then drop a pass. The psyche it's not good for a quarterback in his shoes. So, yeah, on the other side, the pass rush has got to show up this week, and I think it will. I think there's a difference between rushing on a terrible field in Brazil and rushing inside Lambeau Field with your home crowd. I think that's going to be a difference this week. That, to me, is a big part of this game and how they do it, obviously, right? So the players that are stars on this team, from obviously Jaden Reed had a huge week, but not just Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, two gimme drops. He could be a star in this offense. He's got to play like it. Jair Alexander, he had the pick last week. He can't have the missed assignments. He can't get beat at the frequency that he was last week against this Colts offense. Those guys got to play like stars to me.
Yeah, I have the same question for you, Tom. Who are you looking for? What are you looking at heading into Sunday?
Well, first thing I'm going to look at are the inactives, because the Colts have a couple of key guys who are on the injury report. If Brenson Buckner can't play and he didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, then that changes the game a lot, because he's a really important part of their pass rush. And then Kwity Paye, their right defensive end, or other defensive end, he's on the injury report too and hasn't practiced, and he's a really good run defender, and that would make a big difference, for them shutting down Josh Jacobs. And I think the Colts are going to try to, or I think it would be smart if the Colts put Kenny Moore, their really talented slot corner, on Jaden Reed and just have him follow him around and try to take him out of the game, because Jaden Reed, to me, is their number one target now. Like, he's their best offensive player. And so you got to work to take him out, I think. And I wonder if that's something they might do. There's a lot of unknowns. I think the Colts are kind of coming into this game the same way the Packers are. Like, they thought, they could have won that game against Houston. They weren't that far away from winning that game. Starting 0-2 is pretty devastating. I don't think it's the end of the road for either team. I think it's less of an end of the road for the Packers, because they got Jordan Love coming back. But I think it's which team is going to scratch and claw and figure out a way to win. And that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I guess that's going to be the biggest key. It's not if you put all the pressure on Malik, you're probably not going to win the game. It takes everyone around him, those returning guys, those veteran players, to take that next step, take the pressure off him. And I think you kind of mentioned it, Ryan. All those gimme balls, you have to catch them. You have to run the ball hard. You have to play good defense. I think if they can take pressure off Malik, because he's a backup for a reason, right? Take the pressure off him. Don't put the ball in his hands to where you say you have to win the game from him. You have a good chance of moving to 1-1 and leaving Lambeau Field with the first win of the season. Guys, any closing remarks, any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Well, I'm not expecting a 3-hour trip to the stadium on Sunday. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. You got your Brazilian coffee?
That part I'll miss. And the Brazilian food was pretty darn good. And, the access in the stadium. But other than that, I guess it's good to sleep in your own bed. It's been a long preseason, and it's kind of nice to have a home game, just so from the standpoint of not having to be on a bus for 3 hours.
Yes. Not only that, Spoon, but a noon home game. Noon game. The omelet bar is going to be out inside the press box. Get yourself an omelet. Get out of work kind of early, much earlier than a 3:25 or a night game. There's nothing better than a noon kickoff at Lambeau Field. Like, that is the creme de la creme, right? So, it's – boy, that was a long bus ride. Sao Paulo is so massive. I knew going in it was going to be big, but I don't think I quite realized just how big 21.6 million people in a city was.
Yeah. Green Bay wouldn't even be a neighborhood in Sao Paulo.
No. I mean, it'd be a street.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys are back in Green Bay. I'm looking forward to my first regular season game on the beat as well. So we're going to have a good time. We're going to enjoy the omelet bar, and we're going to check out some football on Sunday at noon with the Packers and the Colts. Guys, appreciate it as always. And we thank you all for checking out this week's edition of the Green 19 podcast. Go enjoy the game.